Governor's Island. An island at the tip of Lower Manhattan provided a stage where a local military community participated in national and international events. From its military beginnings as a colonial militia base in 1755, Governor's Island became a major headquarters for the U.S. Army and Coast Guard, making it one of the longest continually operated military installations in the country until its closure in 1996. Governor's Island operated ferries travel daily from the Battery Maritime Building, also known as Governor's Island Ferry Terminal in Lower Manhattan, right beside Staten Island Ferry Terminal. You can view the Brooklyn Bridge from the ferry terminal. Also beside the terminal is Saker Aviation Services that provides a helicopter tour of Manhattan. A lot of New Yorkers bike and run around the East River Greenway. It is a beautiful trackway to enjoy your exercise. The Battery Maritime Building BMB is a 1909 historic ferry terminal at the southern tip of Manhattan, once the crown jewel of the New York City waterfront. It is right beside the Staten Island Ferry Terminal. Beautiful building that functions as a ferry station. The station has a ticketing counter, cash-only restrooms, and not much else. For food and drinks, head to the Staten Island Ferry Station next door. The ferry to Governor's Island is seasonal and dependent on when the island is open to the public. Check the Governor's Island website for the schedule. The ferry ride takes 15 minutes. Our ferry boat is on its way to the island. I'm so excited that I have been to the island multiple times. The last time was during the ice sculpture show contest for Times Square's Valentine's display. You can check the video blog on my channel. Hello, Lady Liberty. The Battery Maritime Building BMB is truly a marvel to behold. It is the iconic jewel of the Manhattan waterfront since 1909. New York won't be the same without it. It is as iconic as the Brooklyn Bridge and the Statue of Liberty, New York's historical icons. People are taking selfies and pictures. The 15 minutes ferry boat ride to Governor's Island is very convenient. It's also one of the best ways to see the 360 view of the waterfronts of New York City downtown area, including Jersey City, Hudson River, East River, and Brooklyn Bridge. Don't forget Brooklyn.
It's a plan.
wide-angle shot of Castle Williams and Statue of Liberty in one picture. Staten Island Ferry is much larger compared to the Governor's Island Ferry, and it is better in terms of the number of trips it does and the amount of passengers it carry in one voyage. We have just arrived at the Governor's Island Ferry Port. New York Bay is the large tidal body of water in the New York-New Jersey Harbor estuary where the Hudson River, Raritan River, and Arthur Kill empty into the Atlantic Ocean between Sandy Hook and Rockaway Point. We have just arrived. It is time to wander around the island. Visiting the island during spring and summer seasons is highly recommendable. People visit the island to have picnics, bike around, and just to be awe-inspired by the historic buildings we are now going to look at. Building 140 is a historical landmark of the island. Governor's Island Welcome Center. The staff at the Welcome Center was extremely helpful and knowledgeable. They definitely set the tone for an amazing visit. There is also a map of the layout of the island to help you navigate through it. But don't worry, you won't get lost in here since it is small enough to find your way around it. The Arts Center at Governor's Island, Building 110. A huge 1940s bell is outside this building. You can ring the bell to signal your arrival. Kids are playing with the bell. The brick buildings in this island have been tested by the coastal weather and the ravages of time. It has stood strong, and some are still functional until today. Fort Jay is a coastal bastion fort and the name of a former United States Army post on Governor's Island in New York Harbor, within New York City. Fort Jay is the oldest existing defensive structure on the island and was named for John Jay, a member of the Federalist Party, New York Governor, Chief Justice of the United States, Secretary of State, and one of the founding fathers of the United States. It was built in 1794 to defend Upper New York Bay, but has served other purposes. From 1806 to 1904, it was named Fort Columbus, presumably for explorer Christopher Columbus. Today, the National Park Service administers Fort Jay and Castle Williams as the Governor's Island National Monument. Fort Fort Jay is situated on Governor's Island, which was known as Netten Island from 1664 to 1784, based on Dutch Noten Eiland for Nut Island. Specifically, the fort is located on the site of earthworks originally built to defend New York City during the American Revolution. General Israel Putnam constructed the first earthen fortification on this site starting in April 1776 and armed it with 8 cannons for the defense of New York Harbor. Additional guns were later in place, and on July 12, 1776, the Netten Island batteries engaged HMS Phoenix and HMS Rose, W. The American cannons inflicted enough damage to make the British commanders cautious of entering the East River, which later contributed to the success of General George Washington's August 29th to 30th retreat from Brooklyn into Manhattan after the defeat in the Battle of Brooklyn. The Americans abandoned the earthworks that September, resulting in the eventual British occupation of New York City. The British Army improved the existing earthworks and used the island as a British Royal Navy hospital until they departed on November 25, 1783. In the 1830s, the protective value of Fort Columbus diminished with the advance of weapons technology, but other uses evolved for the Army post. The Army renovated the fortification beginning in 1833 with the construction of 4 barracks that remain to the present day, replacing wooden barracks. The barracks were built as the fortification's importance in protecting New York was diminished by the construction of the new forts at the Narrows of New York Harbor. The Greek Revival-style barracks, unified by 2-story Tuscan porticos, first served as officers and enlisted men's housing for the permanent garrison. Fort Jay is a top list when visiting New York City. It has defended New York City since the first U.S. President George Washington, a true American legend. The main entrance to Fort Jay, also known as the Gate, is located at the top of the archway on Governor's Island, New York. The entrance has a medieval-looking gate, and atop it is the Fort Jay Eagle, also known as the Trophy d'Armes sculpture. The sculpture has stood there for over 200 years. This is what it looks like inside from the closed gate entrance. The Eagle is under renovation after 200 years of weather and elements. I am amazed it has still stood the test of time. The design is human. The Dutch West India Company first arrived to New Amsterdam and opted to set up camp on the small 70-acre island we now call Governor's Island, rather than brave the wilderness that lay across the water on the island that would later be known as Manhattan. Adopting the Native American name, the Dutch settlers called the island Noten Eiland. They constructed a fort and sawmill here. Many resettled on Manhattan Island the following year. This is why buildings here looks Dutch architecture. In 1664, the English captured New Amsterdam, renamed it New York, and took Netten Island, the British mispronunciation of the Dutch name. The city and the island switched hands between the British and the Dutch over the next decade until the British regained exclusive control of the island for His Majesty's fort and garrison. The island was renamed Governor's Island and reserved for the benefit and accommodation of His Majesty's governors. On June 7, 1775, just 2 months after the first major descent in the colonies, the British were unable to continue occupying New York. British forces withdrew to Canada to replenish supplies and forces before attempting to retake the city, including Governor's Island. MSC cruise ship docked at Pier 12, Clinton Wharf, Brooklyn, New York. After the British withdrew from the island, Continental troops fortified the island for fear of advances by the British Royal Navy at the Battle of Brooklyn. The British Army overpowered General George Washington and his men, and American forces retreated from Long Island and Governor's Island. The city and the island were occupied by the British and used as their North American military headquarters for the rest of the American Revolution. At the end of the 1783 Revolutionary War, British troops withdrew from the city on November 25th. This date would be celebrated as Evacuation Day, a city holiday for the next century. The British Royal Navy departed the island on December 4th, and the Royal Navy surrendered to the Continental Army. Oh, look, Manhattan skyline from Fort J. After the American Revolution, the state of New York inherited all lands owned by the British, including Governor's Island. In 1794, with the country in need of a system of coastal defenses, the fledgling government began to fortify the harbor, including construction of a fort, later to be named Fort J, on high ground in the center of the island. In 1800, New York transferred the island to the U.S. government for military use. Between 1806 and 1809, the U.S. Army reconstructed Fort J and renamed it Fort Columbus. In 1904, the name would be changed back to Fort J. Castle Williams, the second of 3 historical forts, was built on a rocky outcropping facing the harbor. In 1812, the South Battery, the third fort on the island, was constructed. During the War of 1812, artillery and infantry troops were concentrated on Governor's Island. The recently built fortifications deterred a British invasion, sparing New York the fiery fate that befell Washington, D.C. The wooden gate at the fort is tough. Surely the wooden gate can withstand an artillery blast. Yup, I have walked around the Fort J. It is quite large and a marvel to behold. Let's continue touring the other buildings on Governor's Island. This building was repurposed to be QCNYSPA. The QC New York Spa Complex includes a couple of large, outdoor spa pools, including a music pool where soothing sounds are piped in under the water. A ground-level area inside the building holds steam rooms, foot baths, Vichy showers, and saunas. QCNY spa guests are in their robe getting ready to chill and spa. Looks like they are having a lot of fun in the large outdoor spa with a nice view of the Manhattan skyline. Castle Williams is a circular fortification of red sandstone on the northwest point of Governor's Island, part of a system of forts designed and constructed in the early 19th century to protect New York City from naval attack. It is a prominent landmark in New York Harbor. Together with Fort J, it is managed by the National Park Service as part of Governor's Island National Monument. Castle Williams was designed and erected between 1807 and 1811 under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel, later Colonel Jonathan Williams, Chief Engineer of the Corps of Engineers and First Superintendent of the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York. Williams was also a relative of Benjamin Franklin. Its pioneering design consisted of multiple levels of enclosed or fortified gun emplacements casemates. It established a prototype for American coastal fortification design for the rest of the 19th century. The nearly circular fortification, 40 feet high and 210 feet in diameter, was constructed of sandstone walls 7 to 8 feet thick. Each of its 4 levels had 13 casemates or pairs of barbette mounts on the fort's roof that could hold 26 cannons of varied caliber. The 4-tier arrangement was only duplicated in the U.S. by Battery Weed at Fort Wadsworth on Staten Island and Fort Point in San Francisco. However, at Castle Williams, the 3rd tier was intended as barracks and was not armed. From the Castle Williams, the Brooklyn Bridge and Manhattan Bridge looks one as they overlay each other at a direct angle of vision. Governor's Island between 1901 and 1912. The castle was fitted up as a model prison in 1903. It was most likely wired for electricity when it became available on the island in 1904. The angled gate walls were remodeled in 1912-13 to create a 2-story guardhouse, using stones from 2 demolished magazines within the courtyard. Castle Williams became the Atlantic branch of the Fort Leavenworth Disciplinary Barracks in 1915. and the Eastern Branch of the United States Disciplinary Barracks in 1921. Expansion of the plumbing system occurred in 1916, and complete renovation of the plumbing, central heating, and electrical systems was carried out in the 1930s. The floors and roof were also reinforced with steel in the 1930s, and steel grating and solitary confinement cells were installed in selected casemates of the second and third tiers. Great experience on a warm, sunny day. So much history to explore at this ice cream cone-shaped Governor's Island. Castle Williams has an eerie feel with prison windows overlooking the Hudson. Ample picnic coots and happy trees to laze under. A must-go for families and art enthusiasts to view the numerous arts displays and poets rendering their feelings from porches of the old villas.
Abandoned building.
Built in 1839 to serve as Governor's Island's military post hospital, Building 9 has seen a variety of uses and names through its 180-year history. It helped define the area of Nolan Park long before the yellow houses appeared and today stands as one of the oldest structures on the island. Even while serving its original purpose of hospital and medical training center, Building 9 housed officers and prisoners as well, being referred to as the block house for that purpose. Notably, a young Lieutenant Ulysses S. Grant stayed in the block house in 1852 while his unit was briefly stationed on the island. Colonel's Row. Once known as Brick Row or Regimental Row and now as Colonel's Row, the group of 8 brick houses in front of you was built by the Army between 1893 and 1917. Although all were built to standard Army plans, slight variations over the years have made the houses unique. Most of the alterations took place around 1938 under the supervision of the Works Progress Administration, a program created to provide jobs for the nation's growing number of unemployed during the Great Depression. Garages were added at this time, along with the impressive line of London plane trees which front these houses along Hay Road. The houses were built at a time when joining the Army was not a popular career choice because of its poor housing, low pay, and a slow career track. By 1900, the United States had become a world power and needed to modernize its army while attracting and retaining good officers to lead it. Colonel's Row was built, in part, to entice men to make the Army a career and provide their families with quality housing. The capacious houses averaged 12,500 square feet and included attic space for servants' quarters, multiple bedrooms, and full basements. At the time of their construction, many of these houses fronted the southwest shore of the island. This prime beachfront location did not last for long. Beginning around 1900, the Army added landfill, extending the island to the south by more than 100 acres. The officers' views were no longer of the expansive harbor, but of barren new terrain. Eventually, the imposing bulk of Liggett Hall cut off the vista altogether. In the 1870s, the Army moved both offices and officers to the island, building 6 new generals' houses, now known as Colonel's Row, and enclosing Nolan Park. By 1878, Governor's Island had evolved from a small military outpost to an Army headquarters and garrison. The island offered a quiet neighborhood not far from the hustle and bustle of the city for officers, enlisted men, and their families. The brick houses at Colonel's Row are now vacant, but the inside still looks great. I would live here. It is for free. With the expenses, New York housing marking it will be a great deal. All I need is a boat to go to work at Manhattan. This house is huge. I wish I could live here. The rocking chair is moving on its own. There was no strong wind to blow the chair. Well, probably the houses are still haunted by ghosts, which makes it a good house to live in. You can have a soldier ghost watch over you. I was looking at windows wishing I could spot a ghost, but so far nada. The brick houses at Colonel's Row are almost identical with a little variations on it. Liggett Hall, also known as Building 400, is a former barracks building designed by McKim, Mead and White and built in 1929. The Georgian Revival building is 3 to 412 stories tall and measures 1,023 feet 312 meters long. Influenced by the regimental barracks of France that the U.S. Army used in World War I, the barracks was the first of 3 large barracks complexes constructed between the World Wars by the Army to house an entire regiment. The 2 others were the quartels, larger than Liggett Hall and built between 1930 and 1939 at Fort Moore, Georgia, and the Castle, a 1,285-man barracks at McChord Army Air Base constructed in 1940. I sneaky peek inside the Liggett Hall. This is what it looks inside. It is somehow abandoned and unused for many years now. Liggett Terrace is full of tulips and flowers of different kinds during the spring season. Liggett Hall measures 1,023 feet 312 meters long, oriented on a northwest-southeast axis, and contains to 225 foot 69 meters wings protruding southwestward on each side. The overall shape is an elongated U that surrounds a courtyard on the southeast. A sally port runs northeast-southwest through the center of the building. The sally port contains brick and stone voussoirs, and a cornerstone inscribed with the text erected by the Quartermaster Corps, 1929. The facade is red brick laid in common bond. For 2023 at Governor's Island, the bird is made of stainless steel, with a mirrored surface and crown atop its head, designed to resemble the Statue of Liberty. Viewers can see themselves on the mirrored belly and see the beautiful backdrop of the island, encouraging a moment of peace and awareness. And yes, Statue of Liberty Vista Point is one of the best views to admire Lady Liberty, with New Jersey at its backdraft and dozens of ferry boat yacht pass by. It is a view to behold. The design is human. The expansive lawn and clear skies makes it an ideal place to have a family picnic and do your outdoor activities. Oh, look, to Staten Island ferry ships pass by each other in between the Statue of Liberty and the oval I am standing on. The design is human. The oval is a great place to bring students to get some energy out. This is a wide open, grassy field that is excellent for running games or free play. Occasionally, this area is off limits to the public due to private events or other things happening on the island. Most of the time, however, this area is wide open. It is a 1-minute walk from the garden and about a 15 or 20-minute walk back to the ferry. The views formed here are majestic and, if it's breezy, the best place to be on a hot day. Most of the people who visits here bring their picnic blankets and food. It is truly a New York hidden gem. By comparison, it is similar to the State Liberty Park at New Jersey, but with a better front view of Lady Liberty. The design is human. The view of ships passing by the New York Upper Bay from the Oval is spectacular. Plants and greeneries are found here too. That you will find some animals and critters who live here. You don't have to worry of car exhaust pollution, cause it is far from the busy streets of New York. Look, I just have found my special spot. I will take a nap here for 2 hours. A unique looking bird. I don't know what it's called, but it looks amazing. Don't worry about this giant bird. It is just an artwork. The design is human. The tulips here are of different colors and variation. The design is human. Brick oven pizza is also available in the island. Food stalls are a great help to the starving visitors like me. The bronze propeller in this rock is casted from the original Wright brothers wooden propeller used in the first aeroplane they invented. The design is not human. Yapa fallout shelter built to stand the nuclear bomb blast. The design is radioactive. The Chapel of St. Cornelius the Centurion was built on Governor's Island, a military outpost in New York Harbor, in 1846 through the efforts of the Army chaplain, the Rev. John McVicker. Trinity Church provided McVicker and his successors with continuous support. By 1866, the War Department stopped providing chaplains to Governor's Island. The South Battery, or Half Moon Battery, was erected prior to the War of 1812, in concert with the construction of Castle Williams. A battery is a fortification equipped with artillery. This arrow-shaped fortification was built into the hillside overlooking Buttermilk Channel to the east of the island. Its position provided protection against any attack through the channel from the harbor. A single-story barracks was located inside. In 1939, the building was renovated. For use as the Officers Club, the club was created to help meet the needs of active duty officers and a large number of very high-ranking, retired Army officers who settled in New York City after World War II. The South Battery continued to serve as the Officers Club for the Coast Guard until 1996 and was used for banquets, weddings, dances, and other social functions. In 1878, when the military division of the Atlantic and the Department of the East were transferred to the island at Building 12, the post served as headquarters for major Army commands until 1966. The last of these was the 1st United States Army, one of the country's most important field armies and the only one to fight in both WWA and World War II. This Building 12 is known to be the most haunted building in the island. It is now abandoned and holds the memory of hardship and war stories of those who served the country. It is facing the Brooklyn waterfront. saw something inside the window, probably just a ghost. The design is human.
All these buildings are abandoned. Brooklyn Bridge.
The view of Brooklyn Bridge from Building 12 is spectacular. The huge mirror-like block is One Manhattan Square, a 72-floor luxury residential skyscraper building 800-foot-tall glass tower. Admiral's House. It was officially designated as Building 1, a historic building built in 1843. Known as the Commanding Officer's Quarters, or Quarters 1, residents included Omar N. Bradley, Robert Lee Bullard, Adnan Chaffee, John J. Pershing, Walter Bedell Smith, Leonard Wood, Jonathan Wainwright, and Winfield Scott Hancock, who ran for president while living here. Governor's House. Building 2 was commanding officers' quarters between 1822 and 1843, then was used the main guardhouse and post-commanding officers' quarters until the 1920s. Hugh L. Carey Tunnel Ventilation Building serves as the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel Ventilation Shaft. That is the whole Governor's Island tour. I hope you enjoy watching the video.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Ho, ho, ho!